today's lecture is going to be super amazing. It is something that I have thought from a very different perspective, that how do you essentially think like a product manager and make great decisions. That is something that we'll do. So let me quickly start here. Okay. So I think the topic of the session is like super clear, which is like making great decisions as a product manager, right? Where I want to essentially start is like, while product managers may not build the actual product, you know that most product managers, they essentially don't code, they don't do marketing copy, they don't make business plans, they don't do a bunch of stuff, right? They don't do designs and all of those things, right? But one of the critical things on which the success of a product manager is dependent is on that, how do you make decisions, right? And that is far more tangible, because you decide what should be the next feature, you essentially decide why that feature will be successful, you decide what should be the wireframes or what should be the PRD which should go to engineering, you decide all of those things, right? So you all across your day as a product manager, you may consistently take bunch of decisions again and again, again and again, again and again, again and again, right? You all of you guys, you essentially keep doing. So that's why the most tangible thing to become a product manager is that you should be good at making decisions, right? These decisions can be as simple as changing a small one line of copy on a landing page, to the big ones that what should be my next feature, right? The decisions that most product managers take, it is to unblock their team so that they can continue what to build, and they are not blocked anywhere in terms of task-based structures, in terms of next steps, in terms of any help that they need from corresponding teams. So the first thing that I want to tell you today is, the core role of a product manager is to bring out insights or decisions on the table, and all across the day the product manager essentially makes bunch of decisions, keeping those decisions, consistently making decisions, and that's how the life is overall spread across. Product managers are far more critical to make decisions, which can do three things, right? The first thing that they can do is, it helps what should be the next step. Second, it helps unblock other team members. Third, it helps them better collaborate. Product managers are actually the hedge समझते हो? Hedge का मतलब होता है कि it is like the wall against indecision. Because if you're not able to make a decision in the context of a product, in the context of a company, in the context of growth, right, you would essentially get away from the first mover advantage, or the advantage that you essentially have, that there is a problem in the market. What I mean by that is, if you will not do it, somebody else will do it. So indecision is the blasphemous part of becoming a product manager, right? If you're not able to make choices, you're screwed. So typically the most important decisions that a PM makes are, number one, सबसे पहले तो वो ये clear करता है कि why a team exists, right? What is the vision? What is the impact that I intend to create? Why have I created even this cross-functional teams of 2 designers, two back-end developers, 2 front-end guys, one marketing guy, or whatever? So how do you essentially accomplish what you essentially want from a vision perspective? That's one, right? The second is, what is your general approach? So basically there is a vision को कैसे achieve करना है, then there is something called strategy, right? So essentially from vision, how do you come to strategy? That is also something that a product manager decides, that what is your general approach. Third, what to build now, how do I prioritize, what not to build, what to build. That is also something that a product manager takes as a decision. And finally, what should be the minimum effort through which I can achieve the maximum value, right? That is the design of the MVP, or the first version of the product, or the second version of the product. So ये सारे decisions एक product manager consistently लेता रहता है day in day out, and this is where the success of a product manager is meant. So I always say, in order to become a great product leader, a product manager has to first become from dispensable to indispensable, from indispensable to dispensable again. I'll repeat. What it essentially means, when you join as a product manager, you're not writing code, you're not making designs, you're not doing any of those things. So the value that you create for a company is in terms of insights. That what is the insight that I bring forward? And if your insights are right, like for example, if I can tell to my company that there is a volume of 500 million people who are searching for maths, and I essentially bring some insight through which I can make a headway in the market or acquire more customers. So I have essentially become from dispensable to indispensable, because my insight is adding value to the company. My insight is adding value. now once you become indispensable, most people would come to you for answers, right? That is also not right. So what a great product manager does, he creates product managers who essentially take his role, and he becomes or she becomes from indispensable to dispensable again. What I mean by that is Shravan cannot do everything. So my role as a product leader is to create product managers in my place who can make all those choices, and those are A-star product managers, right? And I can essentially focus on something else. So that is why it is very important. One of the skill sets that a product manager has to learn is to make great decisions, right? Now, the first thing is being a good decision maker, right? Intuitively, being right a lot matters, right? At the same time, in contrast, there are factors which are not under your control. बहुत सारे ऐसे factors जो तुम्हारे control में नहीं है. For example, you released an app and Apple ने अपनी terms and guidelines ही change कर दी. They essentially changed their terms and guideline and there is a breach, or they started taking 50% of your revenue. So you can never foresee what is coming in the future, because macroeconomic factors can change. Like for example, when COVID came, edtech boomed like crazy. It was a macroeconomic factor. No product manager would have predicted that, right? So what is really important is that whenever you are making decisions, they should be good decisions. We will define what do you mean by good decisions and whatever and whatnot, right? But I propose that being a good decision maker means two things. The first, making decisions using the right amount of information. That's one. Second, making decisions as quickly as possible. Second might sound underintuitive to you कि जल्दी क्यों करना है? But I'm still proposing the definition of a good decision maker is somebody who makes a decision with the right amount of information and makes them as quickly as possible. Making good decisions using the right amount of information, right? Deciding how important a decision is the most important decision that you make. To decide how important a decision is the most important decision that you're making, right? तो क्या होता है लाइफ में ना, दो तरह के डिसीजंस होते हैं यार. ये जेफ बेजोस ने भी बोला है. सो जेफ बेजोस एसेंशियली सेड देयर आर टू काइंड्स ऑफ डिसीजंस इन दिस वर्ल्ड. टाइप 1 decisions which are not reversible. Once you have taken those decisions, you have to stick with them. Type 2 decisions are like walking through a door. You can always walk back. But what he essentially meant was that 80% or 90% of all your decisions are type 2 decisions, which are like irreversible decisions, which don't have that much of an impact, right? I'll give you a nugget of information. Out of the 50 decisions a product manager makes in a day, at least 40 of them are almost having very little impact, right? Very little impact. There are only 10 or 7 decisions which are like very high impact decisions for the product, for the company, for etc, right? So मेरा suggestion ये है कि for the 40 odd decisions, right, you should spend as little time as possible. Let me put two things in front of you, right? Is it great for a product manager to be right all the time, versus is it great for a product manager to be right only on times which are like very critical for the company? Like for example, there are 100 decisions that you're essentially making. One product manager has probably the capability to make 90 out of 100 right decisions, right? But probably that person fails on the most critical decisions. The second thing is that you probably are great at the critical decisions, but you made like poor decisions which are non-impactful in general in nature. What kind of product manager would you want to be? The first one or the second one? First one is you made 100 decisions, out of 90 were probably correct, but you didn't make the 7 decisions which are super critical, right, for the company. Versus there's a product manager who made 10 super critical decisions and were right, versus he failed at 50 of the other decisions. What would you choose, first or second? So logically, you should not invest a lot of time in decisions which are not that impactful, even if you are wrong, because they are fundamentally reversible, right? उससे कुछ बदलेगा नहीं, right? It is not something will break, right? So that is why I said that it is very critical. So you understood there are two kinds of decisions. First is called irreversible decision. Second is called a reversible decision, right? The irreversible decisions are one which can have a lasting impact, like somebody getting married, somebody's death, It can be anything, right? It's a lasting impact people would. I'll give you a practical example. I'm going to explain about this VSR going forward, right? Second is a decision as simple as buying milk today for tea. Do you give a lot of time to it, right? Or writing a small document, do you give it a lot of time about it? Or writing a Jira ticket, you don't, right? So ideally it is far more important to be right when it matters versus being trying to be right all the time, right? Understood. I'll give you a practical example. Okay, this is a small framework or a small thought experiment which essentially tells you that how do you define which decision is impactful versus which decision is not impactful, right? So you see the screen, the first thing that is written is investment of resources. So you essentially rate it. Okay, if I have to make this decision, what is the investment of resources that I might have to invest, right? Second is impact of a positive. How confident are you that it will result in a positive outcome? And third is what are the structures that you can think, what are the negative outcomes that can happen because of this? Does it affect your brand and company reputation? Does it affect your existing or future customers? Does it affect your code base, system, or data? Does it have any legal risks, right? So it's a framework in which the first thing that you check is that how many resources will I take? Will it be low? Will it be medium? Will it be high? Second is what is the how confident I am on the fact that it will be a positive outcome, incremental to company changing, right? कि सब पूरा दुनिया ही बदल देंगे. Third, if this decision is taken, what are the negative consequences that I can face? That will it impact my brand and company reputation? Second, will it impact my existing or new customers? Will it impact my system or code base or etc.? Or will it have any legal liability risks, right? Will it have any marketing risks, right? So you essentially develop this kind of framework, which essentially tells you whether a decision is critical or not. Now we will do 3 examples around it where you will better understand what I mean by this. Let's assume there is a decision of changing the button of buy now color on Flipkart. For example, there is a decision that you essentially want to take. You have a thought experiment in your head. If I make the color from green to red, more people will click. More people will click, right? Now let's apply this framework and try to understand how critical this decision is. Okay, in order to change the color from green to red, what is the investment of time, people, and resources? Everybody, tell me, is it low, is it medium, is it high? Honestly, बताओ, सिर्फ color change करना है button का. सब लिखो. I will explain. Akanksha, I am explaining. Let's understand. So the problem statement is that you feel that if I change the color from green to red, the CTR, the click-through rate of that button will increase, right? So what is the investment of the company in order to do that? It's very low. Agreed, right? Second, what is the impact of a positive outcome? Do you really think that changing a color from green to red, right, is going to increase your CTR by 500%? Right? So what is the impact of an incremental outcome? Is it low? Is it medium? Is it high? Batao. Tell me honestly. Yeah. Batao. Low, right? Acha. Ab third thing dekhte, impact of negative outcomes, right? The first thing is, do you think if you change the color from green to red, right, the brand reputation of the company will hit? Tell me that. Do you think if you change the color from green to red, the brand reputation of the company? No, obviously not. Do you think because of this, your future customers will not come to your website? That is also not true. Do you think it is going to make a lot of changes to your code base? That is also not true. Do you think there is a legal risk? That is also not true. So essentially, the overall importance of this decision is very low, right? Agreed? यहाँ तक सब मेरे साथ aligned है that the overall importance of this decision is very low. Correct? So ideally, if you have to make this decision, you probably should make this decision in 2 hours or 3 hours. Not more than that. There is not इस डिसीजन के लिए तुम्हें यूजर रिसर्च नहीं करना चाहिए. तुम करो, अगर तुम्हें लगता है वो काम नहीं किया, रिवर्स बैक कर दो. यहाँ एग्जांपल क्लियर हुई? Is everybody able to understand how we essentially? So it's a very simple decision. Change the color of from green to red on buy now button, right? right? So that's all I'm trying to put across. Ki even if so, the impact of the decision is actually low, right? So you don't have to spend a lot. It is very easy to undo. The impact is limited to a limited number of people, right? So it's not. It doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. It just means that you as a product manager should not spend a lot of time while thinking about it, right? Next example is, let's assume we want to change the company's logo, right? Now investment of resources in order to change that logo slightly higher, because you would need a designer or whatever or whatnot, right? You would need someone who can essentially make a great design, right? Now impact of a positive outcome possibly high, because if the logo is made very iconic, right, people will remember it, right? Like Nike, you remember the tick, right? So if you make a great logo, there might be a change in the image of the company. Make sense, right? Third, the impact on brand and company reputation, right, very high, क्योंकि अगर कुछ उल्टा सीधा चला गया तो company reputation can take a very big hit, right? How will it impact our existing or future customers? Because if the company reputation is hit, it will also impact my existing and future customers that I don't want to associate. Like, I'll give you an example. How many of you know about Tiger Woods was one of the greatest golfers of all time. Then he essentially got caught in a scandal and every company dissociated from him, right? Third, from a logo change, code base तो इफेक्ट नहीं होगा, और लीगल रिस्क भी ज्यादा नहीं है, unless and until you are essentially breaching into somebody else's वो. So overall importance of this decision is medium to high, because it can be company changing, it can impact your brand reputation, right? इस डिसीजन के लिए आपको टाइम लेना चाहिए. How many of you remember that Airbnb had changed their logo and everybody started seeing male genitalia over there? How many of you remember? This actually happened. One more example. So you also remember that Uber changed their logo and nobody could find Uber. Everybody thought it's SBI. You remember that time जब Uber ने अपना logo change किया, सबको लगने लगा यार ये तो SBI का logo है, right? So nobody could find Uber, right? So this is a very critical decision and you would essentially need time. यहाँ तक बात clear है? Make sense? अब third है random example, launching a new project for the company or a new market, right? Now it's a new project in entirety, right? So the investment of resources will be very high, right? Second is impact of a positive outcome. You know that it's a new market, it can add a lot of value, so there is a very good positive outcome, right? Impact of a negative outcome is that brand reputation might not take a hit because it's a new product. Because you are essentially entering into a new, like Myntra tomorrow wants to sell something random, it's not going to impact the overall Myntra marketplace. It's just they're entering into a new market, right? It's not going to affect their existing or future customers, right? They can, but not majority of the cases. Third, it's a new market, it's a new product line, it's not going to affect their code base or system that much. And the last thing is, from a legal point of view, even if you launch something new which is not under a legal consideration, right, overall the risk to the brand reputation is very low. So the importance of this decision is again somewhere medium. This essentially is again a decision generally companies at scale take, right? If a startup has to put across, and if the startup has to make this decision, which is a series A, to launch into a new market, for them this becomes a critical decision because they don't have that many resources, right? But generally companies like Google, Microsoft and other companies who have like tons of money, for them this particular template is of very high value because there is high investment. ठीक है, पैसा है मेरे पास, so I can put money. ठीक है. Second, there is low impact of failure. Even if it fails, it's not going to affect my core model. Google ने पिछले 10 साल में they've launched 50 products. Almost 45 of them have failed. Allo failed, Google Groups failed, etc. But did it affect their core business model? No, it didn't. Right? So second, if it has a high impact. So most companies who have good cash flows, they prefer this kind of template. कि ठीक है, investment है, कोई बात नहीं. I don't mind. Right? But failure का chance तो कम है ना. right? And there's a high chance of impact, so I would rather spend. So that's why Google built building 8, Google X, all of those things, right? So this is a typical template whenever you take decisions as a product manager in your life, whether you're an APM, whether you're a PM, whether you're SPM, right? You should try. And this template is not exhaustive. You can also write below legal risk, marketing risk. You can also write sales risk, and you can essentially just rate them down. Okay, how important is this, how important, and essentially come to a point. Okay, this is not that important, this is important, this is not important. And you essentially start putting that, okay, this is the percentage of time, right, that I would ideally spend, right? Yahan tak baat sabko clear hai? Is everybody aligned with me? How do you essentially see the validity of a decision, right?